Shabbos Daf Mem. There are two versions in Rav. Rav says that if you heat up water before Shabbos, you're permitted to bathe in that water, provided that you only bathe one limb at a time. The fact that there are two brises that seem to contradict that, they say the only way you can bathe yourself is if you wash your face, hands, and feet. Seems like any other limb would be asur. Rav will explain that the brise is just telling us how to do it. Just like you wash your face by itself, your hands by itself, so too each limb must be washed individually. The other version of Rav is Rabbah. The way to use hot water that was heated before Shabbos is to bathe your entire body besides one limb. You must leave one limb out. The problem is those two brises seem to contradict Rav, because those brises say the only way to bathe yourself is panav yadav raglav, face, hands, and feet, not your entire body minus one limb. And that's a good kasha. Rav Yosef asked Abaya, who was brought up by Rabba Bar Nachmani, he said, did Rabba in fact use Rav's shita that you're allowed to bathe yourself, your entire body, minus one limb? Says Abaya, I never saw, I don't know. But the question is, why did Rav Yosef ask Abaya? It's obvious that Rabba always did exactly what Rav said, besides three things. We had it in the beginning of the Masechta, that you're not allowed to take tzitzis from one beged to the other. Rav says you can. Rav says you could light a ner Chanukah, one from the other. Rabba says you can't. And Rav paskin like Reb Shimon Begreira, that you're allowed to drag a bench, provided that you don't know for sure that you're going to make a groove. Rabba says, I don't hold like that. But in everything else, he did exactly like Rav. The answer is because this is a kula. Perhaps in kulas, Rabba didn't act like Rav. To say that you're allowed to bathe yourself, your whole body, minus one limb, that's a kula. In fact, the halach is not like Rav. The halach is like Shmuel, who says that the only thing you're allowed to do on Shabbos is bathe your face, hands, and feet. Before Shabbos is just like Shmuel that says, even if you bathe each limb individually, that's asur. You could only do panav, yadav, v'raglav. If you have a bathhouse that they plugged up the holes that let the steam out, or another pshat is that let the heat out of the heaters before Shabbos. In other words, you trapped the steam in the bathhouse, but it's not providing additional steam throughout Shabbos. So when Matzah Shabbos comes along, you're allowed to use the bathhouse. You don't have to wait b'chdei shiyasu, the amount of time it takes to heat up the water. If you're only using the steam, the zayah, the sauna part, that you could do even on Shabbos itself and on Yom Tov itself. In fact, there's a story in Bnei Brak, Rebbe Akiva, the famous, like we say in the Agada, Rebbe Akiva and Elazar ben Azariah, they sat in the steam house on Yom Tov, and they even took a shower with hot water, according to Rashi, but they made sure that that hot water was covered with wood. Chacham say you don't need to cover the hot water with wood. Now, the Gemara tells us there are actually 4 steps in the Gzeira that says that you're not allowed to bathe yourself with hot water on Shabbos. The first step was that it was mutter to bathe yourself with hot water that was heated up before Shabbos. But then the Balanim, the people in charge of the mikvahs, they started lying and started doing shtick, and they would heat up on Shabbos. Some say, the Yerushalmi explains, they added extra coals before Shabbos, but there's a problem of chitui. So they said, you know what? No more bathing in hot water, but you're allowed to use the steam. The Avaryanim came along, the people that are Oiva Averis, and they started lying. They said, we're using the steam, but in fact they were bathing. So they said, you know what? You're not allowed to use steam, but you're allowed to use Chamit Tefera, any natural hot spring you're allowed to use. Then came along the third Gzeira. People were lying. They said, hey, I just came from the Chamit Tefera, when in fact they were coming from the bathhouse. So they said, Chamit Tefera is also asur, but you're allowed to use cold water. But they realized, Chachamim, that people cannot be oimed, they can't stand the Gzeiras, they weren't able to accept the Gzeira. So they said, Chamit Tefera is mutter, let's take it back a step. You're allowed to go to a natural hot spring, but you're not allowed to use the steam, you're not allowed to use the Zayah. And you see from here that a person who's over on a derabana, on this Gzeira, is considered an Avaryan. You're allowed to call him out in public and call him an Avaryan. The Gemara tells us you're allowed to walk through a bathhouse that's very wide and large, because we're not concerned people are going to think that you bathe there and you're not going to benefit from it. But if it's a smaller one, like in a small kfar, in a village, it's inevitable that if you walk through it, that you won't benefit from the steam, and therefore it's asur. You're allowed to heat up your own body and then pour cold water on it. But to do the reverse, to pour cold water on your body, then heat yourself up in front of a fire, that's also because now you're bathing yourself with hot water. Similarly, you're allowed to take a hot towel and put it on your stomach to relieve pain in the stomach. But you're not allowed to take a small pot with hot water. Number one, if it spills out, it's a very big danger, and that's also to do in the weekday as well. But there's an additional problem, that if water spills out onto your body, now you're bathing in hot water. The Tanna Kama says that you're permitted to take cold water on Shabbos and warm it up, make it lukewarm. It's also to heat it up to the point where it's yatsi ledes, where your hand takes it back, or better yet, the Gemara describes it as amount of hot water or the heat that could burn a baby's stomach. That's a universal stage. Chazon Ish says it's 40 degrees Celsius, which is about 104 Fahrenheit, and Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says 46 degrees Celsius, which is about 114.8 Fahrenheit. That you're not allowed to do. Now, what about oil? The Tanna Kama doesn't mention oil. So Rabbi and Rav Yosef say that according to the Tanna Kama, it's 100% mutter. There's no such thing as cooking oil. Therefore, even if you bring it up to Yatsi Ledes, mutter. Rav Nachman Yitzchak takes it to the other extreme. It's 100% asur. Even to warm up oil, that's the way you mavashal. That's people use it. They like to warm it up, and therefore that's also asur. The Gemara brings another two shittas Tanaim in oil. According to Rabbi Yehuda, to warm it up to a point that's Yatsi Ledes is asur. To warm it up to a point of lukewarm, that's mutter, because that's not how you cook with it. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that is the way to cook with it, to make it warm. Therefore, you can only put it on your hand and put your hand in front of a fire. But what is the difference between Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Nachman Yitzchak? They're saying the same thing, basically. You're not allowed to warm up oil, even lukewarm. The answer is because according to Rabbi Nachman Yitzchak, it's also to warm it up lukewarm, even with a shinoi, even kalacher, with the side of your hand. But according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, that is mutter. La halacha, there's no difference between oil and water. Both of them, if it's yatsi ledes, it's asur to warm up, and if it's not yatsi ledes, it's mutter. The Gemara tells us Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi went into the bathhouse. He was following Rebbe, and he said, I want to take a flask of oil and put it in the Chamei Tveria, the bathhouse of Chamei Tveria, and warm it up. And Rebbe said, you're not allowed to do that. You could take a kli sheni, water that's into another kli, fill up another kli, and then you put into that. So the Gemara says, first of all, you learn three things from here. You learn that you could cook oil, like the shita that says oil is cookable. Second of all, you see that if you take water out of the Chamei Tveria and you make it into kli sheni, that does not cook. And second of all, you see that just warming up oil, that's also considered cooking. Now, how did Rebbe tell him these halachas? He was in a bathhouse. You're not allowed to even think in Torah in the bathhouse. The answer is, to prevent somebody from doing it, you're allowed to, like we see, that a Talmud went behind Reb Meir into a bathhouse, and he wanted to mop the floor for him, and Reb Meir said, that is asur, that's a shvui gumos, that's considered baina, because he wanted to prevent him from doing it in Isser. Have a wonderful day.